Shrike isn't actually broken, and here's why. Now, I'm sure a lot of you are immediately typing, hey Dunmere, you're crazy, she's insane, she'll 2-tap everything in the game, which isn't quite true, but she does often effectively 2-tap most of the characters when they take a slight bit of damage or they're running like a very low tank, a very low HP build like this Shrike bot here. But the issue on top of that is that her damage isn't actually as good as it appears, and she trades this, this raw damage, which again I'm saying isn't that great. She's trading it for very low flexibility and very low team utility, right? So what exactly is the actual problems, starting with her damage? The issue is that her damage is backweighted, right? In a team-oriented game, backweighted damage is pretty bad because you aren't actually providing as much value until the damage has already occurred, right? And so on a character like Shrike, or until, the second set of values has occurred. And so on Shrike, when you hit the first character, hit first shot, boom, you're only dealing like 560 damage or whatever it was, and you have to hit the second one here to get that huge pop of extra damage, right? If you don't, you're not getting nearly as much damage as you should. You are applying some pressure when you hit an enemy, but a lot of the times they can just kite away, or they can just, run behind the enemy, or they can just, run and fight other people on your team outside of your range, right? And run away from your sight lines. And so, that's the original issue, on top of the fact that the damage is very angle required, as in you have to have good sight lines, right? Like if you're fighting in an area where there's like a bunch of things to walk around and be blocked by, this isn't like an amazing area to show you on the list, but if I'm standing right here and then an enemy walks up, they can use this as cover, they can use this, and this is like relatively open, right? But there's still a lot of things they can use to block it. And so, that is the case for all sniper characters in games, but the issue is that the rest of the utility that she provides to the game, to like a team, which, isn't the most obvious of stuff, is that she lacks a lot of this team utility. Like, she doesn't have the ability to do something like Myth can do, where she can just, immediately go and walk through the wall and bring people with her, right? She doesn't have nearly as much of this ranged AoE blocking capability, right? Like the thing about a character like Myth, which is Shrike's like biggest competition in terms of characters, is that you have something like this, right, where you throw down your arrows here, and then anybody that wants to try and walk through this is going to get anti-healed, they're going to get slowed, and they're going to be like severely damaged during this process, right? And they're effectively not going to be able to play the game very well. Whereas Shrike doesn't have quite this value. She only has I did not two-shot that guy. She doesn't have that, right? She only has the ability to throw out this vision, which is useful. It does anti-heal, but it doesn't have this sort of like raw, super powerful capability that Supervive's all built around, right? And then she has her nade, which is arguably her best ability, I would say. But that's not nearly as good as this huge permanent rain of arrows that a character like Myth has, or, yeah, right? On top of this lack of like team utility, like I said, there's just things that other characters can provide a lot better. Competition for something that like a Shrike, competition for Shrike's job, like I said, is Myth. She has the ability to just walk people through walls. She can, let's see what else she can do. She can also be putting out huge damage from range, actually farther range, right? She has a better form of AoE knockback, right? Since you can just, knock back an ally that gets an enemy gets on top of her in a much more reliable sense, right? Like, because she can shoot an arrow forward that'll push somebody, whereas Shrike's has to be dropped in a specific location, right? So if this enemy dashes into you and you miss location it, it's gonna be able to, like, it's gonna be a struggle, right? So it's harder to predict these kind of skill shots in comparison, right? And so, team utility is important, right? But you're probably saying, yeah, but most people are playing Supervive solo, or they're just playing it to run it down and fight people and do whatever. That is true, but on top of all this stuff is the fact that Shrike lacks a lot of flexibility, really. She doesn't have a lot of mobility, and that's like her biggest problem, right? When I'm playing a character like Shrike, and an enemy jumps on you, all you have is one dash like that, right? And then you're stuck, unable to do much, right? You have that, and then you have a defensive bomb. That's all you can do. And the thing is, if you're holding both of these, you can't be using them aggressively, right? You're going to struggle to be able to toss it out, and this is like a 6-second cooldown that you're completely vulnerable to being dove on, you know? And like I said, the dash is pretty far, yeah, but it doesn't work instantaneously, and you have to start charging it up, right? And that's the kind of time frame that a brawl or something could already be blowing you up, right? Or someone comes in from a flank and you're like, oh crap, I need to dash, and then before you know it, you're already stunned or grounded or whatever it is, right? So she's just not really that flexible of a character. And there's a lot of ways to exploit her, essentially. She, you know, does probably feel like a lot of a skill check or a stat check for people, just because of this damage that she can output. And that is kind of true if you play, you know, and just run it into her and you don't use cover very well. But the reality is, like I'm saying, she is actually not a basic skill or stat check. She's a basic skill check, right? And, you know, here's why. Most of the characters in the game have the ability to exploit two of her issues. And the first one is that, like I said, she has a very limited amount of mobility, right? And she needs to, like, her effective range is not, like, it's far, but it's not that far, right? It's far enough that a character can basically immediately cross into it, right? That's the first issue. And the second issue is that she is stationary the whole time that she's, like, using her shot, right? She's stationary and or, like, committed to where she is for the most part. Like I said, yes, she can dash out of it, but for her to be able to, like, output her damage, she's, like, realistically not, right? And so every time she's shooting, she slows herself and she becomes a pretty easy target to hit, right? And so most of the characters in the game can essentially exploit her weaknesses or just outrange her. Even like a character like Ghost, like, hello Mayo, like, what is this? You know, I mean, this character is something different, but I can just sit here and this bot doesn't, you know, this guy's going to try and shoot me. I don't even have to get within her effective range. I just sit there and beam her from, like, downtown. Put an amplifier build on and just sit there and just beam and beam and beam and beam and beam. You know, like, my ultimate is a farther range than her, like, shot, basically. I'm pretty sure it actually is. But even amongst those, like, characters that can't do that, you have characters like Jewel, characters like Jin, Felix, Oath, Brawl, Bishop, Shiv, that all can just jump on top of her and blow her up insta, right? You know, like, you are playing there on you're playing Bishop and you're running it down and you see a Shrike. In the effective range that you know, the Shrike can actually even, like, start attacking you, she's already within, like, your kill range, right? And the thing about that is, like, Shrikes has, like I said, she has these two capabilities, right? She has the ability to drop a bomb, and I'm trying to kill this guy's good annoying. She has the ability to, like, drop a bomb on top of herself, just like this one, or dash, right? But as soon as, like, this salvo of, like, capabilities is gone, she doesn't have anything, right? In the game, in, like, another game like Overwatch, this would be should be a very powerful character, right? But in this game, you have a character like Brawl that can jump on top of her, and she's gonna, if you save it to try and drop it, he just pops his ultimate, blocks it. If you dash away, Brawl can already cover that distance, right? Like, the Brawl is literally gonna be like, where'd that go? The Brawl is gonna see you over here. Wow, I literally perfectly min-max that. And he's gonna dash on top of you, and then if you do your thing, he's gonna block it, and then boom, 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 right? Not even, like, min-max that, right? Because he also has this. And it's not like he's even an extreme example, because there's characters like Jin, you know? You're over there, he comes up on you, dashes up on you. Oh, I messed up the combo. Let me do it correctly. And he's on top of you right here, you know, dashes out of anything you put down. And then if you dash away, throws this out to TP on top of you and start killing you. Or he, you know, throws out this one and just blows you up, right? And it's just like, you don't have this sort of, like, raw flexibility, right? And even the characters, I'm saying that like the characters that don't have this sort of like raw value or ability to just straight up dive on top of you, like a character like, let's see, which is a good example, Jewel, right? Well, I mean, she can do this even, so maybe not the best example, but we're gonna use her as an example anyway of how she can exploit you in another way. Is literally just like, you know, you pop your thing here. Ooh, stop throwing things at me. Like that right there, if I, you know, had done the full combo, is just literally like a kill combo, right? And you're so committed in it. And there's so many characters like effectively are like relatively close to like your max range when they're like, you know, doing some of this stuff, right? As soon as they shoot at you, boom. Drop the beam on top of this person's head. So basically, yeah, right? And see, the other thing, like this is how you would, you know, this is her weaknesses, right? Like I said, on top of just not having much for the team, this like raw like stat check appearing capability is countered by the fact that she's so limited in her own flexibility to avoid getting killed effectively. What are you doing, little guy? Right, you're just so limited by your her capability to have to be committed to her positioning and then have limited mobility, right? And so on top of that though, like, because there is room in which she could do the counterplay, like I talked about, assuming it's not even a character like Brawl, let's just say it is like the Jhin, right? And the Jhin engages on you, you could like use your bomb like perfectly. Like you could set it up in a location in which like, let's see, you know, like maybe you're playing like right here and then like the Jhin engages on you and you know that he's for sure going to like not be able to hit you when you kite this corner and he's going to for sure like engage on you. So you toss your bomb like this so that if he goes, you know, here, he's going to get tagged by it, right? And if he goes this way, you're going to shoot him, you know? You could do really big brain things like that, for sure. But the thing is, you have characters like Felix, for example. Actually, every character in the game, essentially, has like a massive AoE something, right? So yeah, you can try and do your little special thing, but then all of a sudden, like, in the middle of that, like a Felix is not even hitting like a super hard flank, but he's just like, boom, guess what? Oh, wow, that totally did not do what I wanted to do. He can just be like, well, guess what, right? And then boom, you're on fire, and then all this area is slowing you, and it's stopping you from doing what you want to do. And that's the thing about Supervive, right? Like, especially with adding things like Amplifier in the game that make you be able to spam a lot more. You just have like every character has like multiple things that they can use to just like just damage areas, right? Cover is valuable in this game, but it doesn't do quite what you need to. And they can do it from range too, you know? Literally just like, you have a grenade going there. Well, let's see how much like, there's a character like Ghost, right? I'm gonna pop that there, hit this here. You see how much like ground, like area I've just damaged, right? Myth or Zeph is like particularly bad about this. Like I have just covered up like this whole area of damage, you know? And it's just like, it's so easy to hit in this game, and a lot of stuff comes down to just tossing your AoE circles at people and blowing them up and, you know, just covering up the whole map and the area that they can even be in, right? For a character like Shrike who seems like, you know, like I said, a stat check character that just beats you with her numbers, she actually needs nuance. Like she's one of the most like simple nuance requiring characters in the game. She doesn't have that, you know? Because literally, like, yeah, it's that simple, right? You can't do that stuff I talked about, like, oh, you just barely turn this corner and like, boom, boom. Like you can, of course, but not when all these cooldowns are available. Is like, you're not going to get this like insane value off of it, you know? And that's just like, that's basically it. That's as simple as it goes. Yeah, guys. So this is essentially why Shrike is not nearly as good as she seems. People start exploiting these things. They start exploiting her inflexibility. She doesn't provide enough to a team that she needs to, and the game has been balanced away from her. She used to be really strong like 2 years ago, and the game no longer provides what she needs.